Why do some runners glide through mile after mile with seemingly endless energy, while others hit the wall before they even reach their goal distance? What if everything you've been told about building endurance is actually keeping you stuck in a cycle of fatigue and frustration? There's a scientifically proven approach to developing true running endurance, the kind that carries you through marathons and ultra distances without burning out. Yet most runners are doing the exact opposite of what actually works. Right now, you might be making critical mistakes that are sabotaging your stamina, limiting your mileage capacity, and setting you up for injury rather than breakthrough performance. The truth about endurance development will surprise you because it contradicts the popular mantra of just run more miles that dominates social media and running forums. Building genuine, sustainable endurance isn't about suffering through endless junk miles or pushing yourself to exhaustion day after day. It's about understanding the specific physiological adaptations your body needs to make and structuring your training to trigger those adaptations efficiently and safely. The method I'm about to share has been validated by decades of elite coaching, supported by cutting-edge exercise science, and proven by thousands of runners who went from struggling to finish 5 kilometers to confidently completing marathons and beyond. If you're ready to build endurance the right way, endurance that's resilient, powerful, and actually enjoyable to develop, then you need to hear every word of what comes next. Hit that subscribe button right now, because we're diving deep into training principles that will transform not just your running, but your entire relationship with endurance sports. Welcome to a journey through the real science and art of endurance development. Today, we're breaking down the exact strategies, progressions, and training principles that separate runners who build lasting stamina from those who burn out, get injured, or plateau indefinitely. Prepare to discover why consistency matters more than intensity when building your aerobic foundation, how progressive overload works specifically for endurance athletes, and why most runners apply it incorrectly, and the role of recovery in actually cementing the endurance adaptations you're working so hard to achieve. This is information that will fundamentally change how you structure your training weeks, months, and years. We're not talking about quick fixes or shortcuts because endurance doesn't work that way. We're talking about sustainable, methodical development that builds a foundation so strong, you'll wonder how you ever struggled with distances that now feel effortless. Before we go further, I want to connect with you. Drop a comment right now telling me what city or country you're watching from because our running community spans the entire globe, and I love seeing where everyone is training. And if you haven't already subscribed, do it now because you're part of something special here, a community that values intelligent training over blind suffering. Let's establish the foundation by understanding what endurance actually means in physiological terms. Endurance is your body's ability to sustain aerobic activity over extended periods, and it depends on several interconnected systems working in harmony. Your cardiovascular system must efficiently pump oxygen-rich blood to working muscles. Your respiratory system needs to effectively exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. Your muscular system requires sufficient mitochondrial density to convert oxygen and fuel into usable energy. Your metabolic system must balance fuel utilization between carbohydrates and fats based on intensity and duration. And your skeletal structure needs the resilience to handle repetitive impact over thousands and thousands of foot strikes. When people say they want to build endurance, what they're really saying is, they want all these systems to become more capable, efficient, and resilient. The mistake most runners make is thinking that simply running more miles automatically improves all these systems equally. It doesn't. Different types of training stress different systems, and if you don't strategically target each one, you'll develop imbalanced fitness that limits your ultimate endurance capacity. The runners with the greatest endurance aren't necessarily the ones who run the most miles. They're the ones who run the right miles in the right proportions, at the right intensities with the right recovery. The first fundamental principle of proper endurance development is establishing your aerobic base through high-volume, low-intensity training. This is the foundation upon which everything else is built, and it's the area where most runners go wrong by running too hard, too often. Your aerobic base represents your body's ability to produce energy using oxygen as the primary fuel source, and developing this system requires spending significant time at intensities where you're comfortably conversational, typically 65 to 75% of your maximum heart rate. At these lower intensities, several critical adaptations occur that don't happen when you're constantly pushing into higher zones. Your mitochondrial density increases dramatically, meaning your muscle cells develop more of these energy-producing powerhouses that convert oxygen and fuel into ATP. Your capillary network expands, creating more pathways for oxygen delivery to muscle tissue. Your body becomes more efficient at metabolizing fat as fuel, which spares glycogen for when you really need it during harder efforts or the later stages of long races. Your heart muscle strengthens and your stroke volume increases, meaning each heartbeat pumps more blood with less effort. These adaptations are the secret to sustainable endurance, but they only develop when you spend sufficient time training at the appropriate intensities. Here's the protocol that works. At least 70 to 80% of your total weekly mileage should be run at this easy, aerobic pace. For most runners, this feels uncomfortably slow at first. Your ego will resist because you'll see other runners passing you. Your watch will show paces that seem embarrassingly slow, and you'll feel like you're not working hard enough. Ignore all of that. The science is unambiguous and the results speak for themselves. Elite marathon runners, the people running 2-hour and 5-minute marathons, spend the vast majority of their training at paces that would look ridiculously easy to an outside observer. They're running 8, 9, even 10-minute miles during their easy runs because they understand that these miles are building the aerobic machinery that allows them to sustain 5-minute pace for 26.2 miles on race day. If you want to build genuine endurance, you must embrace easy running and trust the process even when it feels counterintuitive. Start with your current weekly mileage and ensure that at least 3/4 of it happens at conversational pace. If you're running 30 miles per week, that means 22 to 24 of those miles should be easy. Gradually increase your total volume by no more than 10% per week, maintaining that same ratio of easy to hard miles. This progressive volume increase, done consistently over months and years, creates profound endurance. Adaptations without the injury risk and burnout that comes from constantly hammering yourself. The second critical component of endurance development is strategic implementation of tempo runs and threshold work. While the aerobic base is your foundation, you also need to raise the ceiling of what your body considers sustainable effort. This is where tempo runs enter the picture. A proper tempo run is performed at a comfortably hard pace, the effort level where you could speak in short phrases, but not hold a flowing conversation, typically 80 to 88% of your maximum heart rate, or roughly your 1-hour race pace. The physiological purpose of tempo running is to improve your lactate threshold, the point at which lactate begins accumulating faster than your body can clear it. When you improve your lactate threshold, you're essentially teaching your body to sustain faster paces before fatigue sets in, which directly translates to better endurance at race pace. The key is dosage and timing. You don't need tempo runs every week, and you certainly don't need them to be excruciatingly painful. For most runners building endurance, one quality tempo session every 7 to 10 days is sufficient. These sessions might look like 20 to 40 minutes of continuous tempo pace running, or they could be broken into intervals like 3 times 10 minutes at tempo pace with 3-minute recovery jogs between. The tempo portion should feel challenging but controlled, and you should finish feeling like you could have done a bit more if absolutely necessary. This is not maximal effort. It's controlled discomfort that creates specific adaptations. Incorporating tempo work into your training serves another crucial purpose. It teaches your body to run efficiently at uncomfortable paces, which is essential mental and physical preparation for racing. When you regularly expose yourself to sustained efforts at threshold pace, your brain and body learn that this discomfort is manageable and temporary rather than catastrophic. This mental adaptation is just as important as the physical ones because endurance events are as much psychological challenges as physical ones. The runner who has spent months training their mind to embrace discomfort will always outlast the runner with slightly better physical fitness, but no mental resilience. Structure your week so that tempo runs are separated from your long runs by at least 2 days, allowing adequate recovery between quality sessions. A typical week might include 1 long easy run, 1 tempo session, 1 or 2 medium-length easy runs, and 1 or 2 short easy runs or rest days. This creates a rhythm where you're consistently stressing your aerobic system through volume while periodically challenging your threshold and teaching your body to sustain harder efforts. Now think about your current training structure for a moment. Are you running most of your miles truly easy, or are you stuck in that moderate intensity zone where you're going too hard to build your aerobic base, but not hard enough to actually improve your threshold? Comment below right now and be honest with yourself. What percentage of your weekly miles are genuinely easy versus moderate or hard? This self-awareness is critical because you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. The third pillar of proper endurance development is the long run, and this is where many runners finally get something right, though often they still make crucial mistakes in execution. The long run is the cornerstone of endurance training because it provides a concentrated dose of time on your feet, forcing all those physiological systems we discussed earlier to work together for extended periods. The adaptations triggered by long runs are unique and irreplaceable. Your body learns to mobilize and utilize fat as fuel more efficiently during prolonged efforts. Your muscles develop greater glycogen storage capacity, your tendons and ligaments strengthen to handle extended durations of repetitive stress, and your mental toughness builds as you prove to yourself that you can sustain effort even when fatigue accumulates. However, the long run must be executed properly to deliver these benefits without excessive fatigue or injury risk. The single biggest mistake runners make with long runs is running them too fast. Your long run should be performed at easy conversational pace for at least 80 to 90% of the duration. This isn't a race simulation, it's an endurance building session, and there's a massive difference between those two objectives. For runners training for distances from 10 kilometers up through half marathons, your long run should gradually build to roughly 90 to 120 minutes in duration. For marathon training, you'll eventually extend to runs of 2.5 to 3.5 hours depending on your pace and experience level. The progression should be gradual, increasing the duration of your long run by 10 to 15 minutes every 2 to 3 weeks, with a cutback week every 4th week, where you reduce the long run duration by 25 to 30% to allow recovery and adaptation. During these long runs, your primary goal is simply to complete the time or distance at easy effort. Don't worry about pace, don't compare your long run splits to other runners, and absolutely don't try to prove anything by pushing the pace. The endurance adaptations happen from sustained aerobic stress, not from how fast you cover the distance. That said, there is value in occasionally incorporating some faster running into the latter portion of long runs once you've built a solid base. After you've been consistently running long for at least 2 months, you can begin experimenting with finish fast long runs, where the final 10 to 20% of the run is at marathon pace or slightly faster. This teaches your body to run efficiently when glycogen depleted and mentally fatigued, which is incredibly valuable race preparation. But these should be the exception, not the rule. Most of your long runs should remain purely easy efforts from start to finish. Fueling and hydration during long runs become increasingly important as duration extends beyond 90 minutes. Your body's glycogen stores are sufficient for roughly 90 to 120 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, after which you need external fuel to maintain performance and prevent excessive muscle breakdown. Practice consuming carbohydrates during your long runs, whether through gels, chews, sports drinks, or real food, aiming for 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour for runs exceeding 90 minutes. This isn't just about completing the training run. It's about training your gut to process fuel while running, which is essential for race day performance. Similarly, drink to thirst during long runs, which for most people means consuming 4 to 8 ounces of fluid every 15 to 20 minutes depending on temperature and sweat rate. Proper fueling and hydration allow you to complete long runs in a state where you're productively tired rather than destroyed, which means you'll recover faster and be ready for your next quality session sooner. Here's something most runners never consider. Your long run endurance is built not just during the run itself, but in the recovery period afterward. Your body doesn't get stronger during the workout. It gets stronger during the recovery when it repairs damage and builds new capacity. Comment now and tell me, how do you typically recover after your long runs? Do you prioritize nutrition, sleep, and easy movement? Or do you just collapse and hope for the best? Your recovery habits might be the limiting factor in your endurance development. Beyond these 3 pillars of aerobic base building, tempo work, and long runs, there are several supporting elements that accelerate endurance development when implemented correctly. Strength training is often overlooked by runners. but it's incredibly valuable for building the muscular endurance and structural resilience needed to handle high mileage. You don't need to become a powerlifter, but incorporating 2 30-minute strength sessions per week, focusing on single leg stability, posterior chain development, and core strength will pay enormous dividends. Exercises like Bulgarian split squats, single leg deadlifts, planks, side planks, and glute bridges build the muscular foundation that keeps you running efficiently even when fatigued. Strong glutes and hamstrings maintain proper running mechanics late in runs, when weaker muscles would fatigue and shift stress to vulnerable structures like knees and shins. A strong core stabilizes your pelvis and spine, preventing the wasteful rotational movement and energy leaks that occur when core muscles tire. These strength adaptations don't just prevent injury, they directly improve your endurance by making your running more economical and less metabolically costly. Mobility work and dynamic flexibility are equally important for maintaining the range of motion needed for efficient running mechanics throughout long efforts. Tight hip flexors, hamstrings, or calves force your body into compensatory movement patterns that waste energy and increase injury risk. Spend 10 to 15 minutes daily on mobility work, targeting the major muscle groups used in running. This doesn't have to be complicated. Leg swings, walking lunges with rotation, hip circles, calf stretches, and foam rolling the major muscle groups will maintain the mobility you need. The best time for this work is after easy runs when muscles are warm and pliable, or as a standalone session on rest days. Think of mobility work as maintenance that allows your endurance engine to run smoothly rather than grinding against internal restrictions. Recovery strategies deserve far more attention than most runners give them. Your body builds endurance during the periods between workouts when it's recovering and adapting, which means recovery isn't passive rest, it's active adaptation. Prioritize sleep above almost everything else, aiming for 8 to 9 hours per night and being willing to adjust your schedule to make this happen. Sleep is when your body produces growth hormone, repairs damaged tissues, consolidates neuromuscular patterns, and balances the hormones that regulate metabolism and stress. Chronic sleep deprivation will sabotage your endurance development faster than almost any other factor. Nutrition must support your training load, which means eating sufficient calories from quality sources to fuel your runs and recovery. Don't fall into the trap of training hard while simultaneously restricting calories in an attempt to lose weight, because this creates a metabolic environment where your body cannot adapt to training stress. There's a time and place for strategic body composition changes, but it's not in the middle of building your endurance base. Eat enough carbohydrates to replenish glycogen, enough protein to repair and build tissue, and enough overall calories to support increased activity levels. Active recovery techniques like easy walking, swimming, or cycling on rest days promote blood flow without adding significant training stress, facilitating recovery while maintaining movement patterns. Mental training is the final piece that separates runners who build extraordinary endurance from those who plateau. Endurance events are fundamentally tests of your ability to manage discomfort, maintain focus, and override the voice in your head telling you to stop or slow down. You can train this mental capacity just like you train your cardiovascular system. During long runs and tempo sessions, practice focusing techniques like counting breaths, repeating mantras, or breaking the distance into manageable chunks. When discomfort arises, and it always does during endurance efforts, practice acknowledging it without judgment and choosing to continue anyway. This is the essence of mental endurance, not the absence of discomfort, but the ability to function effectively despite it. Visualization is another powerful tool where you spend time imagining yourself running strong through challenging moments, crossing finish lines, and handling whatever adversity arises during races. Your brain doesn't distinguish clearly between vividly imagined experiences and real ones, which means visualization creates neural patterns that support actual performance. Spend 5 to 10 minutes several times per week visualizing successful races and strong training runs, engaging all your senses to make the experience as real as possible. The timeline for building genuine endurance is longer than most people want to hear, but understanding realistic expectations prevents frustration and helps you stay committed to the process. If you're relatively new to running, building the aerobic base and structural resilience to comfortably handle a half marathon takes approximately 6 to 12 months of consistent training. Preparing for a marathon requires at least 12 to 18 months of progressive training if you're starting from minimal running background. These timelines assume you're training intelligently, staying healthy, and building gradually. Trying to compress these timelines by adding volume too quickly or pushing intensity too hard leads to injury, illness, or burnout that ultimately sets you back further than if you'd been patient from the start. Once you've built a solid endurance base, maintaining it requires less effort than creating it initially. A runner who has trained consistently for several years can maintain their endurance with less volume than it took to build it, though complete detraining will occur if you stop running entirely for extended periods. The key is thinking in terms of years and decades rather than weeks and months. Endurance is a long-term project, and the runners who embrace this reality end up far surpassing those chasing quick results. Let me challenge you with a final question before we wrap up. If you committed to doing this right, to building your endurance through patient, progressive, intelligent training for the next year without worrying about rapid results, where do you think you'd be 12 months from now? What distances that seem impossible today might feel routine? Write your answer in the comments because articulating your vision is the first step toward making it reality. As we bring this journey to a close, I want you to internalize one central truth. Building endurance the right way isn't about suffering more than everyone else or logging more miles than your body can handle. It's about understanding the specific adaptations your body needs to make and structuring your training to trigger those adaptations efficiently and sustainably. You now know the pillars. Establish your aerobic base through high-volume easy running. Strategically incorporate tempo work to raise your threshold. Execute long runs that build time on feet without excessive fatigue. Support your running with strength and mobility work. Prioritize recovery as the period when adaptation actually occurs, and develop the mental skills to push through discomfort when it matters. These aren't secrets. They're fundamental training principles that have been proven over decades by countless successful endurance athletes. The difference between you and those athletes isn't talent or genetics. It's whether you'll commit to applying these principles consistently over the months and years required to realize their full benefit. True endurance isn't built in weeks. It's built in seasons and years of patient, progressive work. But here's what I promise you. If you commit to this approach, if you embrace easy running, if you build gradually, if you prioritize recovery, you will look back a year from now amazed at what your body has become capable of. Distances that once seemed impossible will feel routine. Paces that used to crush you will become comfortable, and you'll have built not just endurance, but confidence in your ability to achieve ambitious goals through intelligent effort. If this resonated with you, I need you to take action right now. First, leave a comment telling me what your biggest endurance goal is. Whether it's completing your first half marathon, breaking 4 hours in the marathon, or just running for an hour without stopping. Put it out there and commit to it publicly. Second, smash that like button so this message reaches more runners who need to understand how endurance is actually built. Third, subscribe to this channel and hit notifications because we're releasing game-changing content every single week that will support your journey from where you are now to where you want to be. I've got an incredible video coming next that dives into race pacing strategies and how to execute your optimal race plan on event day after you've built all this beautiful endurance. Click on that video on your screen right now and continue this journey with me. Drop your comment, hit subscribe, give us that like, and most importantly, get out there and start building your endurance the right way. The roads are waiting, your potential is waiting, and I can't wait to see what you achieve. I'll see you in the next video and out on the streets.